Hey everybody, welcome to episode 167 of the Bonehead podcast, where we talk all things Blood Bowl. And jingle. Welcome back. I'm Ben, and I'm not joined by Brush Tithe Ben today. He has got a lot of brushing to do and the tithe to pay. But we are joined, as ever, by Ian Triple Pow Triplo. Trips, how you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
I'm not going to bring up your dice just now. And there's a reason for that. Is because Trips has been rolling some cold dice and some hot dice in the studio, and I don't want to bait the dice gods, because the man on the top right of your screen is going to be playing in the studio this weekend. Milton, how you doing, Milt? You right?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks, Ben. Excited to be playing. Yeah, looking forward to that.
I am very excited. I'm very excited that I'll be straight up with you. I haven't entirely decided which teams the first game will be yet, and the reason for that is we've got 3, right? But the Orc team might be painted, and it might be fun to not give you the Orc team. So
That seems wildly unfair.
let's bring you across and then refuse the right for you to play your probable number 1 team. Actually, it's a fair shout. Orcs still your number 1?
Oh gosh, actually, that's a really interesting one. I mean, I've played Orcs a lot less recently, and I've had undeniably more success playing Undead. But I still think Orcs are my go-to. Like, they're definitely my comfort zone. Definitely.
Yeah, Orcs, Undead, Norse, I think, for you. Maybe your top 3. You did pretty good with Norse.
Norse were great.
And I think Trips top 3 teams, definitely Norse up there as well. Definitely Dark Elves. What do you think, Milt?
What's his? Smashed it with the Nurgle. Like,
yeah,
really enjoyed the Nurgle.
Honestly, I think Trips might be the Nurgle king.
It does seem that way. It does seem. Sadly, they're not coming back for the next championship, but if they were, we'd be fudging the schedule so that Trips could run them all the time. Mostly just to get Slurm back in.
Yeah, really good until you take a glory block.
Well, that or just, taking a blitz or a rush on turn 1. Anyway, Trips. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to be really careful because we filmed all 7s. We're already on game 3 or 4 out, aren't we? So, game 3? Game 3 out?
Yeah,
no spoilers, lots of madness and fun to come.
Yeah, another 4 games to come. All right, fantastic. So other than hanging out and chatting Blood Bowl, what are we going to be talking about today, Triplioli?
Today we are talking about the best and worst starter teams for Blood Bowl and our opinions on where you should go and where you perhaps should not.
Absolutely. So I've had this Top 5 Friday brewing for a little while. We got a lot of listener feedback as well, which is cool. But I thought, well, actually, let's talk about it on the pod. So we could do the Top 5 Friday on Friday, so everyone can just get their quick 10-15 minute like, oh, that's interesting. And then if they want to sit and listen to us chat for an hour about why they're the best or worst teams, we've got the podcast here. But before that, let's have a very quick look at some Blood Bowl news. All right, so Blood Bowl news. I am, of course, mostly joking, but we did have an article this week, didn't we, guys? And, I think it'll be coming handy for both of you, as we've just tagged them as being some of your top 3 teams. Yeah, we've got another Touchline Tactics. Have you guys had a chance to have a look at any of the Touchline Tactics articles that they've dropped out?
I'll be honest, I read maybe like a couple of them, and then I've pretty much dismissed them since. They've become a bit of a meme, if anything. Like, ooh, Blood Bowl news.
I think that's basically what you said, wasn't it, Trips, when this dropped?
Oh, definitely felt like, oh, we haven't released an article this month for Blood Bowl. Here comes a random Touchline Tactics. So let's look. Which teams do we have in stock?
Is there genuinely anything of any value in them?
Do you know, most of what they say is actually pretty good. And one thing I've got to say is that all of the articles, because I've kind of done a couple of videos on them so far, and having read through them, by the end of the article, you can skip the star player bit at the bottom, I think. I mean, that one is just like, hey, here's some models. But the core articles, I have yet to read one that's not made me go, oh, do you know what? That is a fun team. Or yeah, there's some fun brews. Or yeah, those teams can be quite interesting. So you've got to give them absolute props for that, because I have yet to read one where I've not gone like, oh man, I love lizards. In fact, the lizards article is the reason we're bringing lizards back for the league. Which Ben still has. All right. Ain't gonna be lizards on Sunday Milk.
All right, I think we'd settled on orcs, yeah.
I'll see if I can get them painted. Yeah. So, did you guys see? The only other thing I wanted to talk about is the financial report that Games Workshop dropped yesterday. Because there wasn't a huge amount in it. I think this is the one that was dropped yesterday. But they did talk about Blood Bowl, a very small amount. There's a couple of little nuggets in there. Let's put Blood Bowl. I think they talked about Blood Bowl absolutely positively just once, which is really good. So those people who think that Blood Bowl are dead, it's not dead. So, but it's not brilliant. So strategy and objectives continued. Our brands continued. In addition, we have several smaller brands, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, and our only licensed property, The Lord of the Rings. These complement the 4 primary brands, ensuring we have something to appeal to most hobbyists. Millions of words and thousands of illustrations and miniatures already exist for all these settings. We continue and to expand them, blah, 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 blah. That's it. That's what we get. That's what we get. Now, the good news is that Blood Bowl is lumped in there with Necromunda, who are a constant stream of releases, Trips, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's always another book coming.
There is actually another book coming, isn't there?
Yeah.
Are you going to have any room on your shelf?
I have to reorganise the shelves to fit another book in.
You can't.
Going to need another Kallax, though, I think. Yeah.
Let's do a GoFundMe, get you a Kallax. And also Lord of the Rings. Now, Lord of the Rings just got a big box set release, so actually, if Blood Bowl's lumped in with that, that is pretty cool. The interesting thing is that, Milton, if I said to you what are the 2 primary Games Workshop games, what would you say they were?
40k and Age of Sigmar.
Okay, what would you say if I said there was 4? What would the other 2 be?
Well, that I had exactly the same thought. So, because when I saw the article and I saw, they said 30k and the Old World as their primary games, I always kind of thought those were secondary more. I know that the Old World's been a bit of an odd one, but at least 30k definitely for the longest time, with a lot of it being resin, and it's been around for a while. It's not something new, but it's always felt more of a secondary sort of box game. The fact that they've sort of said it's their now main thing, and I guess it looks good. Like, it looks good. Like, you've got 40k and 30k, and you've got AOS and the Old World. You've got kind of something for everyone, right?
Yeah, I think that's I knew that they'd promoted Horus Heresy to their 3rd game. I think they did that around maybe the last edition. And this one, obviously, they got a big old release that no one's bought for the Saturnine stuff. That's now like 40% off on online retailers. That sucks a little. The Horus Heresy, guys, like has been, I think, a cursed release, not Cursed City style release. I don't think we'll ever see that again, but a cursed release, right? Because they built this box, and whether you're interested in Space Marines or not, it's a cool looking box. There's some cool models in there. Games Workshop do cool models. They had the Milton. Do you remember the leaks where they had that preview planned, and then some guy shared?
Oh yeah, some guy just shared the whole lot, and then they had to change. When was that? Was that LVO, or it was one of the big American?
It was, wasn't it? Because I was like, maybe we'll get Blood Bowl news, and there's Trips just like chuckling away, and then they cancelled the preview because they'd already previewed it. Then when it came to them putting this stuff on pre-order, people had leaked the book, so you could see the army lists that were in the books, like the new army lists, and tons of options had been removed from the core units. And so everyone was like, oh my goodness, Horus Heresy, the world is on fire, all of my unit, Games Workshop has killed my units, killed my dog, John Wick was getting ready, but then they were like, well, they came to release day, and they released the PDF, and the PDF had all the options. They just kind of said, we're restarting the edition, and we're making the starter lists just like less than 1 million.
Simple.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, if it had been on day one, they would have gone, whoa, there's not a lot of options for Space Marines. Then you would have immediately been able to go, oh, there's a PDF here with everything else in. They're just keeping the books light for the models that are in the box or that are still available and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, Horus Heresy's had a bit of a cursed release, and I think that's why it's led to be, I think, 40% off Wayland Games or something at the moment, which is brutal. But the thing we want to kind of just touch on is the old world. Like Trips, you and I, we love an underdog. We love the Browns. Well, Baker Mayfield and previous. Previous. You know, everyone loves an underdog, and the fact the old world got absolutely blatted, it got cancelled, and then came back again, and is now being posted as one of the top, the one of the 4 core games for Games Workshop. I mean, I know you're not a big fantasy gamer, but everyone loves an underdog, right?
I think it's pretty impressive. I'd be interested in knowing how they define them, whether it's by sales or amount of time and effort they put into them. It may well be purely based on the number of models available for each of those 4 games, and therefore there's a direct link through to sales.
I'll be honest, their effort in the old world, I mean, I'm not dismissing what's been done. I know the guys that work there work really hard, and like some of the stuff that's been made has been really cool. But the wider like sets are all old miniatures that have just been brought back. Like they've not had to make new like sculpts or whatever. They've just rerun old stuff.
Are you telling me this was not effort?
Oh no! That's exactly what I was saying. No, 100%. Like the books and stuff were effort, absolutely. But compared to say,
I know what you mean. The investment,
like bringing out, yeah, exactly. The investment must be comparatively much smaller, and you know, it's. And I haven't played it, and I've not read the whole book. But based on what I've been told,
350 pages. No one's read the whole book.
It's quite similar in concept to how the older editions work, right? There's a lot of still retained themes and mechanics.
Yeah. I think this is a really interesting one, because a lot of the other companies, very much like your companies, the other kind of games, you're right, Bill. Yeah. There's a lot of I would say investment in models and flash and splash. Like they've got animated trailers for Horus Heresy, they've got all sorts of stuff, right? But the old world is just like, right, JTY, you and a couple of buddies have rewritten Warhammer 6th. Do you want to put it into a book and we'll publish it and we'll bring out some old models? Totally. I've actually started picking up the Arcane journals because they are fantastic. There's like a narrative mission. I am loving them. They are like Spike magazine level of like good, but there's more than one a month. No, sorry, month. What a year. But as far as your like what you're saying, the investment in it, you're right. They've got to be the lightest possible touch for any game they have ever made.
but to Tripp's point, and I think it was really valid. Like, does that mean that the profit margin's considerably higher? That's why it's become like another. Because they're just like, well, we can sell these old models. No one seems to care that they're like 20-something years old.
Maybe there's no overhead for tooling. There's no overhead for 3D design. They've released a couple of boxes, but otherwise not a lot. So yeah, I think it's just kind of, you're right, that overhead, that startup cost is just not there, or it's just significantly smaller. But my big question to you guys is, historically Games Workshop has always kind of had this like 3-year cycle because of they kind of filled that the third year gap with Heresy a couple of years ago. Now we've got 40k, Heresy, Old World and Sigmar. Next year is 40k 11th, according to the timeline. Well, not the actual timeline, just the yearly line. Do you think we could see Games Workshop move into more of a 4-year cycle here for these core games?
That would make sense with manufacturing and supply lines, and not having the game systems eat each other for hobbyists' money.
And is that why we are in our 4th year waiting for the Blood Bowl update? Is it because they have already gone to the 4 years? There you go. There's my Charlie Day.
That's an interesting one, because I popped a poll in the Discord yesterday. I don't know whether you guys saw it. I was just having like a moment where I was like, oh, I'll just do something funny in the Discord, and let me just bring it up because it's the outcome I thought surprised me slightly because I was of the impression that everyone was sort of in line with this. We're getting a new season, whatever. So I said, are we getting a new season this year? Yes, absolutely. Or just a new team, or dead game is dead.
Whoa, that is, yeah.
And 74% just a new team. So like the absolute majority of people were not thinking that we're getting another season this year, which surprised me slightly. I was not expecting it to be all like a landslide, particularly one way. I was thinking more of a sort of an even keel there.
It's been
yeah. So I wonder.
it's been
when
like a
you're
year.
talking about that fourth year.
But I mean, one team is probably all Blood Bowl needs, right? Two teams a year would be great, and I think, quite frankly, with the core rules being, with the exception of like wildly inaccurate and a couple of little bits that really don't impact hugely on the game, they're good to go. It really, trips. I mean, I think I would love, and I think it would make a lot of sense for Blood Bowl to start going down the Necromunda route of your core's done, and then it's just we add some stuff, we add some more stuff. Like, how would you feel about that?
Well, I think the game's in the position for it where it doesn't. I mean, we'd all want a few rules tweaked, but it would fit quite well into that. Here are a few minis. I think the thing that holds it back from moving to that is Munda can drop like 2 or 3 special characters.
Yes.
Whereas Blood Bowl, you can do that with star players, but you run out of star players to do that with unless you're introducing more star players into the rotation.
Yeah.
So, well, I think on some degree they've tried, haven't they? We've had Gutter Bowl, we've had Dungeon Bowl expansions and stuff. They've kind of really tried to push that.
I think that's probably where they could go with it. Like a team and an expansion every single year would be like, really, a team a year is probably all we need. And if they keep that out for the next decade, I don't think it would particularly hamper Blood Bowl.
I would really like, and I know it's probably not business savvy, it's maybe not profitable, but I would love to see alternate sculpts for teams. So they could re-release the Dwarves, and they keep the rule set and everything else is identical. It's just that we get a different looking set of Dwarves. So you've got choice, you've got variety. I don't like you were saying, Trips, about the Necromunda stuff. Like the Necromunda world and the kind of the game space and everything has a degree more expansion where you can add some Delac characters that have a slightly different look. Like then you can blend them into the other rule sets and everything. But with Blood Bowl, rule set's pretty tight, right? Like we're not gonna move on that too much. But some variety and choice of stuff to buy, no one's gonna say no to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2016 teams are primed for a retooling. Like, you're not wrong. I mean, God, even if we move forward and they had one new team, we've got 2 teams of Legend to go, one new team and then one retooled team every year. I don't think it would hurt them at all. I think that would probably be a really good way to generate buzz. I mean, it's not like they don't know how to remake models they've been selling for a while. Like, how many? 3-4 editions of Stormcast now?
Oh yeah, I mean the ones that I have, I think, are long since not usable.
Yeah. But you're right. When it comes to Munda, you can release stuff. You can release these NPCs, but there's nothing to say that they couldn't do a similar thing for Blood Bowl. But it just depends on where they want to go, and if they see it as a smaller game that doesn't need a lot of work, I think that's probably okay, because Blood Bowl is in a very good place. As we've been showing, right? You can take a secret team, you can make some secret teams, you can play a format that's already there, that's already amazing. There's so much to play with in the Blood Bowl realm that, the excitement and joy of new models and new puzzles to solve, that's never going to go away, right? But, I mean, it's not something we've massively needed, I think. No, don't need. So I think that's fair. Right, thank you guys, that was good. It's a good opportunity to chat through some of this stuff. Let's talk about things that are needed. Let's go to Games Workshop website. Let's go to the dusty cupboard where they keep Blood Bowl, and let's have a look at some of the teams.
It's a fair few clicks through now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not the best. not the best from a design point of view. Okay, let's brew these up. Right, so the mission is to discuss some starter teams. So if you've got, you know, a club, a league, a friend, you're branching out, you've watched the channel and gone, hey, Blood Bowl's fun. I kind of fancy getting involved with that. If you've got a young kid who's getting into board games and you kind of want to get them started on Blood Bowl, I mean, both your youngest are wandering into Warhammer age range, I think. Might be a hard sell, but I trust you both to give it a jolly good go at some point. But, you know, when it gets to that point, what are the best starter teams for Blood Bowl, and can you buy them? might be a good one.
That might not be an exclusively mutual answer to that one.
Yeah, that's why I thought we'd bring up the Games Workshop website to kind of see how easy it is. 26. So there's 26 here, and there's 29 teams in Blood Bowl, because you've got Slan, which obviously don't really count. You've got High Elves and Tomb Kings, who are pending the Teams of Legend Rubicon Primaris, as it were. And then we've got all the other teams in Blood Bowl. So I guess a good place to start would be, what teams did you both start running when you got into Blood Bowl in the first place? And was it Orcs, Milt?
Well, it absolutely was, because you gave them to me. You've enabled that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I'm proud of it too. Changed your life, Milt. Changed your life.
Yeah, yeah. Funnily enough, in a way, it has.
Not necessarily for the better, but you know, a change was made.
Yeah. So several £1,000 later, paints and other stuff. No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd been wargaming beforehand, kind of got all out of it, and then met you guys, and you were like, "Oh yeah, you should play. Here's a team," and just gave me the Orcs. So, and I still play with those. And honestly, so there's a couple of things. I think ultimately you have to. There's different angles to this hobby, isn't there? There's the playing, there's the hobby element, there's the sort of community and like what everyone else is playing, etc., etc. But I think at the end of the day, my advice to anyone is pick the thing that you like the most, because like that is what you're going to be keen about playing. But if I wanted to guide someone, like someone genuinely wanted help, they wanted something that was like easier to learn, easier to play, I really think the 2016 box, for me,
the actual 2016 starter box.
Well, yeah, I mean, the humans and the orcs are like very complementary, I think, in their like play style. One shows you how to play one way, one shows you how to play the other, but neither of them swing really hard into that play style. I don't think that the orcs are the bashiest team. There are definitely other. I mean, they're very bashy, but they, you know, you still can run with the blitzers. You've still got throwing elements to it, etc. The humans, bit more speed, but they're not super dashy like an elf team or anything. You kind of learn those core mechanics, and so I really appreciated picking up the orcs, and they're still fundamentally why I think they are one of my favorite teams, and I would absolutely recommend them to anyone. Absolutely. What about you, Trips?
I definitely agree with that. I think this, for me, a good starter team is a team that don't punish you for not understanding them, because there's nothing worse than a gotcha moment but that you make on yourself. So teams with lots of negatraits or complex skills that can get you into trouble because you don't know what it does are not a great place to start. So as you said, Milt, the humans and the orcs, they've got to be up there in terms of your top starter teams, because they're simple but not dull. They're both entertaining. They're both teams that can play well and play against any other team. You're going to learn what you're going to do. You're going to learn which play style you like doing in detail, and you can have a lot of fun with them. The other advantage of them is that you don't need every mini and every positional and all of the detail. You can pretty much clobber together a team of 11 and dream about that 12th player and go from there.
But from a hobby angle, and now, you know, we're blessed with countless amazing 3D printable teams or other things.
And third party
I
in
think from
general, right?
a hobby angle, these teams are looking a bit old now, as we sort of touched on earlier. So maybe if you were like looking at Blood Bowl as a game to get into, these teams wouldn't necessarily from a Games Workshop angle appeal anymore. You know, you've got no variety in your blitzers on either team. You've got to have 4 of the same miniature. The big uns are the same, the catches are the same, etc., etc. So,
well, that
I know
that is what I was going to jump in and say is they are. You got to double box these teams.
Yep, you do, absolutely. But you can still pick them up reasonably cheap on eBay if you want to go secondhand. There is that element to it because there are still a lot of people that bought the box set and have them floating around. Certainly not as cheap as you can pick up Imperial Nobility and Black Orcs, though.
That makes sense. Like the 2020 box that came out, 2016 re-sparked Blood Bowl, and 2020 absolutely doubled down on it. And the kits that were in that team, arguably much better sculpts with multiple components. So, like, you know, it makes sense there was a lot of that out there. But also, I think the 2020 box was a little bit more divisive, right? Like, well, that's not fair. The Black Orcs look cool. Nobility are a bit Marmite, I think. Like, you know, I can see people like Black Orcs going to pick up the Black Orc team. Would anyone like to buy some feathers? I get that. so you're not wrong there, Bill.
And the Nobility fall into that category of they're not the simplest of teams to play.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a simple play style, because they have the best thrower in the game who doesn't have a good throwing stat and some weird skills. And they're a control team. They're an anti the other team play stuff. So they are. You need to know what another team does to understand how to play Nobility. You can't just go, I'll learn Nobility and then I'll figure everything else out. Actually, you're playing with other people's teams to start off with.
Yeah. So
would you recommend the 2020 box set then to a new player, as you know, based on the commentary that you've just made?
If you were trying to get into it, simply no, unless you can get it really cheap. Because if you get it really cheap, you can probably get 2 teams for the price of one, a rule book and a pitch. But if you're joining a club and other people, either find someone in the club with a 3D printer and shuffle up to them and try and stoke the resin addiction they've got, or
eBay, something specific.
Yeah, eBay, or go for a one box team. That's the other thing I talk to a starter player about, is actually what's a one box team that you can play.
I don't think that the 2020 box was a bad one. I think it was definitely a step up in complexity. But I think to answer the question of what we're kind of talking about, are Nobility one of the best teams to beat, like best starter teams? I wouldn't say they were one of the best starter teams, because that barrier to entry is a little bit higher, right? Right at the beginning, you guys both sort of said like a good starter team is one that doesn't necessarily punish you and just kind of lets you play the game. Nobility with the Edge 4+ lineman and the thrower that doesn't really throw as well as you'd want him to throw, it doesn't feel like, you don't get that immediate like, oh yeah, I can just do stuff with the team. Whereas Orcs, like Milt said, like you can punch some stuff if it goes wrong, your armor's all right, that you're probably just going to be able to stand up and it's going to be okay. Humans, if you want to make a bit of a dash, do a bit of a pass, pick the ball up with anybody, you basically can. Plus you've got the expandability of both those teams, because you've got like the core dudes, and then you can add that big guy. So you can play your first drive with a human versus orcs, and then you can play your second drive. You can both chuck a big guy on, so you can start to learn how big strength works. You can start to learn how the nega traits work, and then you can add a halfling and a goblin as you develop your team to add the stunty and the dodge angle. So I think when you've got a human and an orc team, and if you want to use those as like expand them so you've got all the pieces, then you cover basically all of the game. You've got big guys, you've got skilled players, you've got reasonable linemen, and you've got stunties. And I think you guys have hit the nail on the head with both of those teams. From a getting into the game point of view, having 2 boxes of humans, a big guy and a box of halflings, it's not the cheapest way to get in. But no. Milton, you were kind of, I feel like, going down a path of sort of saying, you know, from a hobby point of view, these teams are a little bit bland now because they're a bit older kids. But I feel like you were about to go on about talking about alternatives.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, you can almost guarantee if you go to a Blood Bowl club or anywhere that's involving Blood Bowl, you will find people using alternatives. It's just sort of part of the hobby, right? It's part of our game system. It's been very accepted for a long time because of that dip without Games Workshop supporting it and everything. So those alternatives are out there for you, 100%. And I know that a lot of people get into the game from different angles, and quite a lot of people come in through the sort of tabletop wargaming side of things, through playing Old World or Age of Sigmar or one of those kind of game systems, and so they're used to the Games Workshop product, and therefore they'd want to pick up a Games Workshop, kit to go and do so. And yeah, definitely those miniatures are old now; they're not appealing anymore. And as you were kind of saying about the box set for 2020, that came with the big guys.
Yeah, it did, and star players, right?
And the star players, right?
Came with the unbuildable Griff.
That value, yeah. I've snap like 3 of them. But yeah, so yeah, that 2016 set didn't come with the big guys. So as you said, and now because the rule sets have changed because they've added halflings to the human team, and certainly with the orcs, you've got to get the extra blitzers, the extra big uns, etc. You need some more linemen. Yeah, you're looking at spending out quite a chunk of change just to kind of get into those teams, despite the fact that I think they're really good starter points. They maybe not economically or from a hobby standpoint the best picks anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely something to consider. So I think I'm gonna rush you all and just bring up the best team. So Skaven, Skaven. I think Skaven are a fantastic starter team for Blood Bowl, but you've got to read your opponent well. And the reason I think that Skaven are a fantastic starter team for Blood Bowl is, for most people, you can get them to run Skaven and they'll be like, the fast guys go fast, I've got my blitzers, I've got my lineman, my thrower is genuinely the best thrower in the game. So I've got my fast catchers, I've got my great thrower, I've got my blitzers. The box also does not come with all the gutter runners, but the roster, you can add a big guy as well. But the thing for Skaven, I think that they do so well is, I think you can learn to love them, and there's a lot of stuff there, but they play the villain in a starter game really well as well, I think. So you can kind of read, if you're giving somebody a Blood Bowl test game, if you're coaching them in, you can kind of give them the choice of being like, right, do you want to be the bash or the dash? And I think having a team like Orcs versus Skaven is a quality introduction to Blood Bowl, because you are going to learn, I think, out of that matchup where you kind of want to be. Am I like the consistent, indestructible one? Am I on the I'm going to YOLO some dice and go for it here? So I love Skaven. The downside is you do need that second box, because you've got to have, well, you don't got to have, but the starter box here, when it comes to Skaven, right, you either go 2 gutters and a roger, or 4 gutters, and you get 2 gutters and no roger. So basically everything we said about the human and the orcs team, about you needing to have more players, is there. But I think the fact you've got that movement 9 edge 2+ dodge pieces in there, you've got the thrower who can actually throw, and he's got sure hands, and it's a fast team. It's a fast but fragile team. I think it's got a ton of nuance to it. I do think it's you've got a higher palette test. I think you can play Skaven and not like playing Skaven, whereas I think with human and orcs you can play them and you're playing the game and you understand the game, whereas if you play Skaven you might be playing Skaven as opposed to Blood Bowl a little bit. I don't know what your thoughts are on Skaven being a starter team.
So I'd agree with you. I think the Skaven are a fun team to play if they are your first team, but you're going to have to learn about loss quite quickly, because the best way to play Skaven is to trade players for touchdown. And you're going to learn to play a certain way, because they don't really have multiple ways of playing. They play fast and loose. They're not a control team. They're not a bash team. You're going to learn in that certain style of player. And they do, unfortunately, as a starter team, head you, if you're going to get into star players, they head you towards one that's bound to make you looked at by the rest of your club going, why are you playing with that star player this early in your Blood Bowl career?
Bomber dribble snot. You mean hack phlegm. I know you mean hack phlegm. Mill, any thoughts on Skaven? Do you think they make the cut?
I appreciate what you're both saying. Skaven are interesting. They've never really been my favorite to play, and I think for the reason that Trips mentioned, which is you can lose very quickly a lot of players.
That's
Like,
fine.
Yeah. But when you're new to the game,
That
like
sucks.
not having players on the pitch is insanely frustrating.
And it snowballs.
And it snowballs so hard because you don't yet understand the mechanism to recover. So you don't really quite at that point understand how you can push certain things to make that difference. You're not thinking, oh well, I've got gutter runners still. All I've got to do is like create a path and run it down and just pray I don't roll ones.
I mean, that's a very valuable Blood Bowl lesson, to be fair.
Absolutely. I mean, again, they're an old kit. So from a modeling perspective, the tails are a flipping nightmare.
What tails?
Yeah, you just snap them all off. I think they're lovely looking minis, but I think they're dated in terms of the way they look. And again, as you said, if you really want the full complement, you're looking at the Roger and the extra gutters. Also, I think, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold, but what I am interested in is Skaven are obviously your favorite, but what you've done is you jump, and I know some people are going to argue with me about this. Orcs are tier 2. Skaven are tier 1. All right, Orcs are tier 1-ish.
Skaven are better than orcs and humans. I agree.
Yeah, 100%. So these are a
TV
higher
1000.
tier.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So they are off the bat at an advantage, I think it's fair to say. If you're running, like you say, a vanilla 1 mil, absolutely they will be a better team. Now, is that a good thing for learning the game? In some regards, I think it can be. It's certainly an interesting angle to kind of look at, because I was thinking about this when we were talking about the 2 starter sets. Technically, according to the Games Workshop rulebook, those are all tier 2 teams, right? They're not the highest tier teams of the game. And so would I then lean on maybe pushing somebody towards a team that has some more skills to start with, so they get a bit more of that flavor and they have a bit more of that endurance, and then they have a slightly higher chance of winning?
That, I think, is really interesting and really key. Is you've got to read the room a bit. If you're getting into Blood Bowl, your first point, Mill, which is pick the team you like, because you're going to learn all about the game, and to Trips' point, you're going to learn all about a loss no matter which team you're basically running. But like, I got into Blood Bowl a long time ago. I had Dwarves, Skaven, because they were my 2 fantasy battle armies. So I went into it, and there's going to be a ton of people going, oh, I love goblins, so I'm going to play goblins because I love goblins, or I love Skaven, so I love Skaven. But if that's a player that's coming in that doesn't have that relationship with any of the races, then you kind of got to read them. Like, do they want to be competitive straight away? In which case, then giving them a tier 1 team, a team that's got a clear advantage or an easier route to win, can be, I think, a really beneficial thing. Now, this is segueing beautifully, because we've got a tier 1 team here that likes to fall apart but is fast and agile. And we've got the antithesis of them, which is Dwarves, who are also a tier 1 team. But it's cool, right? We started off with Orcs and Humans being the bash and the dash. Then we've gone super dash with Skaven, and now we're going to go super bash with Dwarves. And I'd love to get your guys' opinion on this, because Dwarves are such a solid archetype in Blood Bowl, and they are a massive part of every fantasy game and genre ever. Everybody loves Dwarves. They hold grudges. That's their thing, right? Dwarves are heavy, armored, resilient. They're probably the most iconic and relatable fantasy race ever. So there's going to be a ton of people that are like, oh yeah, I love Dwarves. Let's pick up Dwarves.
Like, people that like Dwarves, you know them. Like, pretty much, like, you know who you are as well.
Yeah.
Like people that like the as you say, that sort of fantasy dwarf archetype, generally speaking, a lot of them have come in from other gaming systems where they've played dwarves before, and they're like, I like dwarves, let's play dwarves. And dwarves are a great pick out the door. I mean, again, they're super bashy, they're super solid. You're not going to lose your players. They're not fast, so they can be quite frustrating to play. I think if you're expecting to be,
You can box
scoring
yourself a little bit with them.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely looking in most situations for that sort of 2-1 grind, and that in itself can be a bit of a learning lesson. But yeah, I don't know. They never appealed to me, but I think that's because we had other people at the club playing dwarves. How about you, Trips? Do you ever consider? You've played OWA, so you've had dwarves in that, but I'm not sure I've ever seen you play pure dwarves.
Yes, I've played them as part of the championship, but my consideration for dwarfs is I would actually not advise, unless they are a dwarfy person, I would not advise a new player to play dwarfs, because I think that they are very good at what they do, but they are sort of the peak of what they do in Blood Bowl. And therefore, if you like playing dwarfs and that's the way you want to play dwarfs. But if you want to learn Blood Bowl, I don't think they're the best team to learn Blood Bowl and get into it, because they are so one-dimensional in the way they play in detail. And you're just, I don't think they've got that way of teaching you how to play all the different ways of playing the game and the different options that you can get. So you might find yourself going, right, am I a dwarf player or a chaos dwarf player? That might be as far as your Blood Bowl expansion goes.
You get the whole team in the box besides the Death Roller, though, right?
That is the huge advantage of the dwarf box set. You get 12 players. When you're running dwarves, you're probably starting with 11 players, and your first purchase is either going to be your second Troll Slayer or your 12th lineman. You do not need the Death Roller. So you are, as far as like buying a one-box team, dwarves are golden. Like, you're good to go. You are good to go. You've got the box. It's all you're going to need.
They're a super simple kit to put together as
well. No. They've got their stupid backplate.
Oh, the backplate. Yeah.
What
okay,
is
that's
with the backplate?
That is the only thing that's not easy
Yes,
about
you are
them.
correct.
Everything else is super easy about building them.
Backplate, absolute ridiculous.
That back, yeah. Well, I wedged one in the wrong way around with plastic glue, and then just couldn't get it out, and I was just like carving it out with a knife. It was awful.
I also think it's the team that the boxed kit that's aged the worst out of the starters. Like, orcs and humans are okay, they're a bit bland, but they're still sporty. I think the Skaven kit's held up pretty well, but 4 gutter runners are the same, are a bit ugh. Dwarves, I think, it's the kit that needs the update the most, in my opinion. But
can you still get the Forge World? Because there was a Skaven, human, and orc. I don't think there was
the booster
a
packs.
One. Yeah, the booster packs.
Oh, I've got absolutely no idea.
All be in there now.
Forge World is just yeah. To be fair though, I filtered my team.
Okay.
So I think that's a really solid bit of chat. We're going to talk elf teams now before we go any further, because I think that's the other niche that's missing, right? You've got the basic teams to start with. You've gone a little bit faster with Skaven and a little bit slower with Dwarves. Then you've got, I'm going to lump the 3 available elf teams together. You've got Elven Union, you've got Wood Elves, and you've got Dark Elves, who all realistically play along the same axes, right? Elven Union are in the middle. Wood Elves are more dashy, less bashy, and Dark Elves are more bashy, less dashy, but they sit in that elf space. Trips, I know you're a big Dark Elf fan. What do you think about the elf teams, and one of those being your starter team?
So Dark Elves were my starter team back in the old days of Blood Bowl, and back in the not so old days of Blood Bowl coming back. I think they are a good starter team if you know what you are starting with and understand the limitations and detail of them. Because unfortunately, the biggest problem with elves teams is that you can find yourself not playing with a team quite quickly. If you run into dwarfs with tackle, you can find yourself not having fun very quickly. And although Dark Elves, of the 3 elves teams, probably have a more variation in the way they play, again, you are leaning towards one style of play with elven teams, which is run and dodge. So you're going to get used to those words predominantly, which is, do I rush here, and what is my dodge here?
No, there are no booster kits available. You can get Dark Elf Assassins, but they are out of stock. But none of the boosters you can pick up. There's a lot of Blood Bowl stuff out of stock, but we knew that already because that was one of the rumor nuggets, wasn't it? It was like, oh my god, everything's out of stock.
I think that's just generally low stock levels.
I think so. Well, they're building their fourth factory, F4, will be live next year in Games Workshop Town, so that's quite cool.
Cool.
But no, sorry, I wanted to derail the conversation about elves.
Yeah, elves are an odd one, like because wood elves are technically, competitively, the best. Is that right? Are they still there?
Yeah, I think well, it depends. Tournaments, Dark Elves tend to do better. League, I'd say you're kind of TV like 1 million to 1,200. Wood Elves probably outperform a little bit. But Dark Elves tend to be the most consistent of the elf teams. They've got higher armor, they've got very good movement, they've got a lot of block, a lot of dodge to start with. Dark Elves are the best elf team. Wood Elves, I'd argue, are the most fun elf team, and Elven Union are the most mid-range elf team, and no one really knows what High Elves are.
Yeah, I think the change in the passing stat with 2020 changed that quite a bit, didn't it?
Yes.
I mean, if I was going to recommend, like, if somebody came to me and was like, I really like elves as that archetype, like, which of the elf teams would you recommend? I'd probably urge them towards the dark elf route. I always remember Craig. He took a bit of a break from playing in our league, didn't he? And then he came back with his pro elf team, and he was just miserable because they just all died in like one game. And he was just constantly miserable about playing them. And like he loves elves. Like Craig's a big fan of that sort of elf archetype. You know, he's high elves, wood elves, whatever. And absolutely rightly so. You know, I
agree. I agree. Huge high elf fantasy player.
Yeah. And you know, he lovingly painted up this elf union team, only for it to pretty much be entirely crippled by about game 2. And I think that, again, as we kind of talked about with the Skaven, is disheartening.
Skaven aren't that bad, but it's a solid team.
Skaven can recover a bit quicker because I think the players are a bit cheaper.
They are cheaper. The linemen are cheaper, and your linemen do less on a Skaven roster. So if you've got a couple of line journeymen, it doesn't actually hamper you. If you have a couple of line journeymen on an elf team, like elves, like they're not resilient enough to just stand there and get punched. You're going to have to take those dodges, and then you're going to be burning your few rerolls on loner 2+ dodges if you need it. Like, I think you're right. I think all the elves have a responsibility to do stuff on an elf team because they're so expensive. Whereas Skaven, you know, and humans and orcs, like the linemen don't actually matter that much. And I think that's kind of where you get that resilience of like, well, I'm only down to 3 blitzers on my orc team, and you're like, okay, I've got 3 blitzers, and same with Skaven. Like if you've got 4 gutters and one of them's missing the game, it's fine. You've still got 3 gutters, and when one of them gets killed, it's fine. You've still got 2 gutters. With elves, if one of your 2 war dancers goes down, that's half of your team basically. So you're not wrong. Like, but we cannot overlook the important element of having Edge 2+ everywhere. I think is a really useful thing to learn to play with, which is why I like the Skaven being there in the conversation. But I agree with you guys. I think if you have got a new starter, Wood Elves are kind of like, look, they fit in the Skaven category of you're going to pull off some stuff, but you're going to get hurt. And if a coach is like okay with that, then I think they're going to enjoy it, and I think learning about loss is really important for Blood Bowl. Elven Union are great. They're a high edge, decent dash mid-range team that's got not a lot of resilience and less high end potentially, but you know, still in the same category. But I think Milt, you called it, and Trips, you called it there by having Dark Elves as your starting roster. The Dark Elf team feels like a human team that's just much better at edge. And that in itself is a really good place to start. So Dark Elves, I think they've got to be on the conversation there. So
it's a lot of dice rolling, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's Blood Bowl. The only way you learn not to roll dice is by rolling dice first.
true.
Yeah, and the only problem with Dark Elves is they've got a positional that you've got to understand, actually, that's not a position you take pretty early on. And you've got a gotcha piece in your starting lineup, because if you don't know what a Witch Elf does, they look wonderful right up until the point where you blitz with a Witch Elf and then you suddenly find them getting murdered off the pitch.
So I got Tiff to play a game of sevens as an introductory game of Blood Bowl, and I used Skaven and I used Dark Elves, and I can't remember which team she ran actually, but I thought that was a good matchup because especially for sevens, because there's high mobility, high agility, and it was a good way to, like, hey, here's all the stuff that can happen in Blood Bowl, and I think they're two good lean-ins there. Right, appreciate we're running a little bit long here. Before we kind of talk about a couple of teams that maybe not the best for starters, are there any teams there you guys think, do you know what, I would totally recommend this as a good starter team over the teams we've already talked about?
So I've got one. So I would for firstly a one box reason, and secondly for a good starting team, Undead.
Oh, Undead! I thought you were going to go with Norse, but
No, I think Norse have got the a few too many gotchas in the skills, but I think an Undead team, again, they've got a couple of different ways to play. You get the joy of having some big guys to start off with, but big guys that don't bite back. And they are fun, and they've got the coolest rule, which is if you actually kill someone early on in your Blood Bowl career on the other team, you get to have their player potentially. And if that happens, you are going to be hooked for life to Blood Bowl.
I mean, absolutely motion past here. And you've got the element that Undead are probably the best TV 1000 team, like the best, like, performing 1 million build. I think overall Undead are probably the most competitive. They are undoubtedly up there with the most resilient. You've got that movement 7 dodge. You've got your blitzers who can block, and they've still got Edge 3+. You've got your strength 5 with no nega trait, and you've got a whole bunch of linemen that never die because they already did it once. So yeah, I completely agree. Mill.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, actually. I'm not sure I entirely agree. 100%, they are great out the box value.
Yeah, that's true.
They've got a lot going on, and I think that I know because in fact, me and BT ran a sort of an introductory game where the guy that came to play picked Undead because he liked the Undead theme, and was just left a bit bewildered by everything that was kind of going on across the team. Like, you've got a lot of components there. Even like the difference between the zombies and the skeletons, if you've got both of them in the team out of the box, you've got one that has thick skull with extra movement, one that's got higher armor and things. So you've got a lot of kind of points of reference that you keep like referencing back to. If you're starting a league and you kind of have an inkling of how to play the game, and you're just joining in a league and you're going to start in a new season, you're going to play, absolutely. You've got longevity in this team. You've got a good chance of winning some games. You've got pieces that you can build. You are missing 2 pieces from the box, though. You do need 2 extra ghouls. So
that's
really,
true.
It's a two box team unless you can source the ghouls from somewhere else.
The best thing to do in that is get Necro, and then you've got 2 teams with all full access to four ghouls for 2 teams and 2 boxes is absolutely the best way to do.
But you're right. I mean, the other team that I would say is Amazons.
Amazons are an interesting one. I definitely think they give you a lot of options. They do introduce you to a lot of stuff. They've got a bit of extra skill now. They do have dodge. They do have a reasonable thrower, and they're more resilient than you think.
Absolutely. And this is why I would pick them over Norse as a suggestion, because Norse have the drunkard skill now.
Yeah, I don't think Norse are a good one. I don't think they are. It's just I know Trips loves Norse, so I kind of was like, I saw Norse. I was like, maybe I can have the graphic ready.
I feel like Amazons sit like just slightly outside of kind of what we discussed with humans.
Yeah.
So they've got a few extra skills and things going on.
They're humans with a twist, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And so I would absolutely recommend the Amazons as a starter kit, especially as it's straight out of the box. You've got the full team. There's no additionals. There's no big guys. There's no nothing. You can take them, run them at a tournament. You probably do all right. You can run them in a league. You do all right. I mean,
You can learn some
can't complain
stuff.
about
You
that.
can learn some stuff with Amazon. I
Although
like it.
not my favorite kit.
Not the best kit, but I do think it's
Yeah.
one of my favorite rosters. I think Games Workshop's done a very good job leveling that up and taking that from boring to this is fun. This is fun. They get mega props. Right, we're going to do quick fire round. We want yays or nays for starter teams. Underworld.
Nay.
I think nay. I think Underworld is a second season team. Yeah. OWA trips.
I would put them in my top 3. Do not start with because they are a great second team, but you have to understand what OWA do to start off with because they've got one of everything and not the one you want.
Yeah, one of everything and it's worse. Norse, we've already said, potentially not. Drunkard, Frenzy. You got a lot of stuff going on there. Again, I think a really, really good team to get into first, second season, or just like after you've learned the basics. I think there's a ton of stuff to learn with Norse, but it's not the most straightforward. Khorne, guys, I would say no.
I would have them as my worst team for anyone to start with because you'll have a great first turn where you go, this frenzy thing is wonderful, and then on the second turn you'll frenzy yourself out of position and go, oh, I've killed half my players by myself. Well done.
I think that's fair. Quite for truth on that one. What about Black Orcs, guys? Obviously, it comes in the 2020 starter set.
Yay, but not super yay.
It would be fine.
They're okay. Yeah.
They're
not. They wouldn't be my top recommend. But if somebody said, "Oh, I really want to," I'd be like, "Yeah, that's cool."
Yeah,
right.
You'll be right.
Grab's a bit difficult to understand to start off with, but otherwise, yeah, Black Orcs are an orc variant that you can't go too far wrong with.
I love them. We've done nobility. We've done humans. Ogres. Probably not the best for a starter team. Probably the easiest of the stunted teams to understand. But
not a stingy team, but not a starter team.
Oh yeah, Dark Elves. We've done goblins. BT started with goblins. He went full in, and I think he knew what he was getting himself into because he was an experienced wargamer. But goblins are a ton of fun, but you need all the stuff, and it's complex. They are so much fun, but it's a steep learning curve, I think.
Yeah, they're your first team that once you've been sucked in and you've bought your 3D printer, then you can go goblins because you're going to be like, oh, I need one of these and 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 one of these. I need 40 different miniatures, but somehow I still only have 7 players.
But Brute Fun's got you sorted. Yeah, I agree. Undead, we've done. Orcs, we've done. Necromantic, guys. Yay or nay?
They're a similar bag to Undead, really, but I would say not as easy. I'd say that I would lean into the comments I made about Undead being slightly too complicated, and then they're somehow just a little bit not as good. So I'm going to say no, but not the worst no.
Yeah, if someone wants to run Necro, it's okay, but there's a lot of stuff to learn. The werewolves, you're going to love running them, but it's going to absolutely upset you when your blitzers don't have hands. I think there's some bits there.
They are a great one box kit. So if you want to get in and you can get a cheap box, then yeah.
That's a good shout. Skaven, we've done Vanilla Chaos. I don't think that's a bad one. I think that's a bad one.
I think that's a big yay from me. Yeah. It's so simple.
There's no skills, right? It's just muscle. It's just stats.
Just muscle. Horns is brilliant, and you've got that across all your players.
Once per turn max, which again I think is like really I do like Chaos Jones. I think they're a really solid team, and you get that possibility of adding a big guy if you want to, but it's not necessary. Very much kind of like the Dwarf Death Roller, but maybe a little bit more necessary. But you need a big guy. And the thing I really love about Chaos, Milton's been great at sort of poking the hobby thing. You get the box set, it's fine. The box set's pretty good, but you get to then go off and find a Minotaur model that you like or an Ogre model that you like, and I think that's just a really cool thing to be able to add. Wood Elves we've done. I mean, guys, Nurgle.
Nurgle are not great.
I'm not that unkind.
Yeah. And also for the same reasons as we touched on earlier, you've got to understand what other people do to understand what Nurgle are good at, because they are good at stopping other people play.
Yeah, that's a solid read. Right, we've done elves, we've done dwarves. Chaos Dwarf, that's a really interesting one. I'm going to say no, because Chaos Dwarves are all about the Bull Centaurs, and they do not come in the box. I don't think there's enough interest there in the call box for someone to be like, "Ooh, this is going to be a fun experience for me." Like, don't get me wrong, the Flamesmiths are interesting, the Stabbers are interesting, but they're interesting to people who already can play Blood Bowl. And if you're running Chorfs without at least one Centaur, it's a bit like running Wood Elves with only one War Dancer. It's kind of like I don't quite understand what you do. Is this a stipulation draft kind of thing? So. I don't think so. It's a good box, great models.
It's the problem there that you've got models in the box that you shouldn't be running, and that's not a great place to learn. Is that, oh, this roster's really good, but actually not the box you've bought them with.
Yeah, that's fair. Gnomes, okay. The box comes with all your positionals, but doesn't come with true trees that you will definitely need. As a starter box, I think they're too complicated. I think it's a fascinating team. It's a lot of fun to run, and everyone should run gnomes for a couple of games, because it's actually just a really different and refreshing way to get murdered. But you're in the game. It's quite a good team. I can see it being the lure into Blood Bowl for a lot of people, and I think that's good, but I wouldn't recommend it.
No. If you want to learn Stunty, great way to learn Stunty, but you've got to learn Blood Bowl first before you learn Gnomes, because they do some things that only Gnomes do. And again, unfortunately, you got to have the trees, and you will find yourself often scraping your team off the pitch.
So I'm not sure if you've had much chance to run Vamps, Mill, but what do you think about Vamps as a starter team? Yay or nay?
Nay, but the kit is amazing. Love the kit. You're missing a big guy, which you may
optional
not want
big
to run,
guy,
but it is kind of a cool big guy.
It's a very cool big guy.
I think they're punishing, basically. Like, they're a great team. They can perform extraordinarily well, and if you know what you're doing with them, they're phenomenal. But off the bat, I wouldn't recommend it to someone.
Excellent vampire pun there as well. And Trips, you've played against them with them a couple of times on the channel. Agreed?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They are amazing. They are amazing for you as a coach to learn, but you have to understand Blood Bowl before you play with vampires. Otherwise, unfortunately, you're going to find yourself going, if I roll one, basically, I don't have a team.
That's the turn gone. Yeah, and you got to learn. You got to lean into Hypno Gaze to make vampires work. Amazons we've done. Lizards, I don't think are a bad choice. I think they're similar to Chaos Chosen in that where it's mostly meat and a couple of stats, a couple of skills. The box set's really good. You don't need a Crocs. At some point you're going to want a Crocs, but you don't need the Crocs to start with. Sauruses are really easy, and Skinks are really easy to understand. I actually think Lizards are a pretty good starter team. You will lose some games because you don't have sure hands, because you don't have block, because you don't have those core skills. So for learning the game, I don't think they're necessarily the best. But as a one-box starter, I think that your beginner's not going to have too much to understand. They're going to be competitive enough to be able to make some solid blocks, take some solid blocks, and take some solid dash play as well.
100% agree with that.
Last two. These should be easy. Snotlings, good for a starter team?
No. Two simple rules for Snotlings. One, if you buy the box, you're going to have to end up building pump wagons, and anyone who's built a pump wagon knows that is not a good introduction to the hobby. And the second, you've already got to learn all the inducement rules to play Snotlings, because within 3 turns, you're going to be going, what's a good inducement? What's a bad one? Because I'm going to need them all next game.
Yeah, you got to learn Riotous Rookie straight away, and you got to source a couple of trolls to make the team function. It's a fun kit. The pump wagon is a challenge to build, you're not wrong, but the models, I think, is probably one of my favorite little boxes. The Snotlings are just so good, and it's such a fun team to play, but not potentially a starter team. Now, one of the most simple teams from a stunty point of view is the halfling team, which is our last one here. We've talked a lot about stunties. Does anyone think that halflings are a good starter team?
I've seen a lot of people start with halflings. Like, I think there's a certain appeal to halflings as
there's a huge charm to them.
Team choice, yeah. And I think a lot of people that kind of want to go down the stunty route, it's almost it's regularly like the goblins or the halfling choice, right? I've seen quite a few people take halflings as a starter pick, and I mean it's not terrible, but it's not what I would recommend.
No,
again,
I think as long as they're getting into it under the with the knowledge that they're going to get absolutely plowed, then I think it's all right. Again, you need a couple of trees, but I think most importantly, if you're thinking league and stuff like this, is what Trips just said, which is halflings of all the teams, them and snotlings are going to need to understand inducements, which means if you're running a halfling team, you need the halfling team. The halfling models are fantastic, but you need 2 trees, and then you need a star player or 2 star players to bring your roster really up to spec. Now, there's a huge amount of variability in that, and from a hobby point of view, halflings are great because you've got a whole bunch of star players you can also add to your roster. But as a starting thing, it's probably not ideal. From rules on pitch, I don't think that bad. Trees is pretty straightforward. Halflings are pretty straightforward. Throwing teammate, maybe not, but I think it's that inducement element as well is pretty challenging. Pretty challenging. That was really good, guys. Thank you so much for talking through with that.
Good fun.
Everybody listening, if there's a team there you agree or disagree, or like I started with this team and it taught me everything about Blood Bowl, then do it. But I think the one takeaway from this is know your audience. Like if you're starting Blood Bowl, what is it you want? Do you want to play with crazy players and you don't care you're going to win? Are you a player that's coming from another game, or you've got a friend who's coming from another game who's really competitive or capable of that game? Maybe make sure that they've got a team that they can learn how to win with first, and if it's just straight up vanilla, go for that tier 2 hotspot of humans versus orcs, I think. But know your audience, I think, is probably the most important thing, and know yourself if you're getting into Blood Bowl. But I've got to say, of all of those teams we talked about, guys, if someone was like, I really want to start with this team, I would definitely absolutely not stop anybody, because I'm like, that's cool, you can run goblins, I really want the team, I really love the models, I love the idea of chainsaws and trolls throwing stuff. I'm like, cool, if you're on board with, because they're already showing that they're invested in learning that, so it's like this being complicated is not a problem for you because it's part, like, you're on board. But if someone's playing a casual player, then yeah, pick a team that's going to start less barriers. I think that's really a solid one. But Trips, Milt, thank you very much for jumping on and hanging out. It's good to see you both, and it's good to chat Blood Bowl.
Always
fun.
Thank you, man.
Groovy. Right, we're going to wrap up. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking.